lesson. All right, so today we are talking about lists. So last class, we discussed tuples. So what are tuples? What was our definition of a tuple? Anyone remember what our tuple definition was?
A list of values?
Essentially just a sequence of values, yeah. So it's a new data type that lets us store more than one value inside of a single variable. Now, can I change a single element within a tuple? I see some people shaking their heads, and that is correct, because tuples are immutable. They cannot be changed once they have been created. So, today, we are going to discuss a new data structure, the list. Lists are very similar structurally to tuples. I'm fogging up my glasses. They're very similar to tuples with one major difference. Where tuples are immutable, lists are mutable. What that means is that I am able to change individual elements within a list, something I can't do in a tuple. So let's look at what that might look like. Lists are made in almost the exact same way as tuples, but instead of using parentheses to define them, we are going to use square brackets. So I have square brackets with the values inside separated by commas. Just like a tuple, the things inside of my lists, those are called elements. And also like tuples, elements within a list have an index, and I can access those indexes in the same way. So I could say the name of my variable with square brackets at a given index, but instead of only being able to access in a list, I can also change at any given index. So I can say my list variable at index 0 equals high. So what is my list going to look like after that happens? I say my list at index 0 equals high. What is my list going to equal?
It's 530.
It will equal high 530. Absolutely correct. So we've changed that first element to equal the string high, and everything else is going to be the exact same. So this is useful because now we can change elements within our variables. So if I want to turn an immutable variable, such as a tuple or a string, into a mutable list, I can use the list function. This is built into Python at base. I don't need to import anything to access this. And this is going to let us change single elements within a variable that I normally wouldn't be able to. So if I have a string called word equaling the string ABC, I can make that word into a list, and just using the word list function on that variable, and when I print it, each character within that string is going to be its own element in my list. So every single distinct character, so every letter, every space, every symbol is going to be its own element in my list. And this will work exactly the same if this was a tuple. It would just change every element in the tuple, and it would take it from it being a tuple into being a list. So I can say word as list at index 0 equals A. So when I print word as list, at index 0, I had a lowercase a, now it's uppercase A, So my word is list now equals uppercase A, then B, and then C. Does this make sense so far? Cool. All right. If I want to turn a list back into a string, I can use the join function. When you call this function on a string, you're going to give it a list as its parameter. And here's how it's going to look. We have our list of elements, and then list as string is going to equal space dot join my list. So, or not even space, this is going to be an empty string. So nothing inside those quotes. So that's going to give me the string ABC. List of string 2 equals @ dot join my list. So I'm going to get A at B at C. So let's look at how this actually works so we can be a little clearer about this. So join is going to take each element in the list that we give it, and it's going to concatenate with the string that it was called on. So if my list is A and then B and then C, I've got my A, B, and C. And then my list as string equals whatever string I want dot join that list. And then that string is going to get put in between every single element in the list. And then they're all going to get concatenated together. Now, this will only work when every element in the list is a string. If I tried to concatenate like an int here to the rest of these strings, Python's going to throw a fit. So we just need to make sure every element in our list is a string, and then we are able to use our join function on it. This is how we can join a list into a string like sense. Cool. All right, there is another function that we can use to turn a string into a list, and that is dot split. So instead of taking every character in a string and making it an element in a list, we can use split to break apart based on white space or based on some other string. So if I have a string called word equaling A, B, C, and I call split, each of these words is going to be its own individual element within the output list. So my list 1 is going to equal A, B, C. Now notice I'm also getting rid of that white space. It stops existing when I do that split. So if I make my words 2 equal AA at BB at CC, and I choose to split on the @ sign, what do we think our L2 is going to have inside? Any guesses? Lights. Right, so if we're splitting on the @ sign, we are going to find every place where there is an @ and then we're going to split based on those places. So we get AA and BB and CC, and that character or string that we were splitting on gets removed completely. So each element is now separate in my list. I have AA, then BB, then CC. And this can be useful when I want to look at every word in a sentence, for example. I can split a string, and then I can do something with each element in that list. And we're going to talk in a future lesson about using loops to interact with lists. So, all those interactions make sense, how we can interface with lists. Great. All right, folks, that is our short lesson for today.